The myth of the 10% brain, where it all began. They say, you only use 10% of your brain. A myth, a misunderstanding, a spark of truth, wrapped in decades of confusion. But where did this idea come from, and why does it hold such power, even now? Let's take a step back, close your eyes, let your body sink into the moment. Breathe deeply, as we begin to uncover the origin of one of the most seductive ideas in psychology, that somewhere, buried beneath the noise of ordinary life, is a sleeping mind, vast, untouched, waiting, the birth of a myth. The story starts in the early 1900s. A philosopher and psychologist named William James once said, "We are making use of only a small part of our possible mental and physical resources." He didn't mean 10%, he never gave a number, but his words planted a seed. Soon after, educators, motivational speakers, and eventually the media began repeating it. Twisting it, simplifying it, turning it into a slogan that sold books and inspired millions. You only use 10% of your brain. Sounds dramatic, doesn't it? It's the kind of line that gives people hope, that maybe, just maybe, they're capable of so much more. And perhaps that's why the myth survived. Because deep down, we all feel it. That untapped power, that sleeping genius, that something within us is waiting to awaken. The reality, you use 100%, just not all at once. Here's the truth, you use 100% of your brain, but not all at the same time, not for the same things, not with full awareness. The brain is like a city, some areas are bright, bustling, conscious. Others hum silently in the background, coordinating, managing, reacting. You're not conscious of everything your brain does, but your brain is always working. When you move, your motor cortex fires. When you feel fear, your amygdala activates. When you remember a face, your hippocampus pulls it from the depths. Every part has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. So the idea that 90% of your brain is unused is misleading. But here's the part that is true. Most people live their entire lives using only a fraction of their potential. Not because their brain is inactive, but because their awareness is. Why the myth persists. So why does the myth live on? Because it feels good. Because it gives us permission to imagine more. Because it sells ideas, books, courses, dreams. And also, because there's something true beneath it. Not that 90% of your neurons are asleep, but that your mind is capable of much, much more than you've been led to believe. More clarity, more memory, more depth, more peace, more power. And most of us never even scratch the surface. The iceberg model of the mind. Imagine your mind like an iceberg. Above the surface, your conscious thoughts. That's the part you know, the words in your head, the logic, the self-awareness. But below the surface is something enormous. Your subconscious, your habits, your fears, your memories, your beliefs, your past, your programming. It runs the show, quietly, efficiently, unseen. So maybe it's not that you only use 10% of your brain, it's that you're only aware of 10% of the forces that drive you. The real journey isn't about waking up new neurons, it's about turning on the lights inside the rooms you didn't know existed. The brain is not a muscle, but it grows like one. Think about this. Every time you learn something new, every time you practice a skill, every time you challenge your mind, your brain rewires itself. It literally changes shape. New connections form, old ones fade. It adapts. You're not fixed. You're fluid, dynamic, alive. You can sculpt your mind like clay. You can sharpen it like a blade. You can expand it like the night sky. And yet, most people live on autopilot. Same thoughts, same routines, same beliefs, day after day, year after year. Autopilot versus awakening. You don't need a bigger brain. You need a wider consciousness. You don't need more neurons. You need to awaken the ones you already have. That's what this journey is about. Not a superpower, but a super awareness. Not a miracle, but a method. And it begins with attention. Because wherever your attention goes, your brain grows. You're holding the key. So is it true? Do you only use 10% of your brain? No. But is it true that you could be so much more? Absolutely. You are standing at the edge of a vast, unexplored territory, the landscape of your own mind, and in the next few hours, we're going to walk into it, step by step, layer by layer, We'll explore its structures, its habits, its powers, and its potential. You won't just learn facts, you'll feel shifts, you'll unlock doors, you'll remember parts of yourself long forgotten. So breathe in, and get ready to discover the mind behind your mind. The myth is gone, the truth begins now. Close your eyes. There's something you've heard before, a whisper, a myth, a rumor wrapped in science fiction and ancient dreams. You only use 10% of your brain. What does that mean to you? That you're holding back, that something within you is asleep, that you were meant for more. Breathe in, and let's go deeper, not into fantasy, but into the truth behind the myth, the truth that's far more strange and far more beautiful than the fiction, the lie you wanted to believe. Let's begin at the very center of your mind, where a belief was planted, not by accident, but by hunger, a hunger for greatness, a craving for freedom, a yearning to unlock something forgotten. The myth didn't survive because it was true, it survived because we needed it to be. Think about it. If someone told you that inside your own mind was a vast kingdom you had never explored, would you want to find it? Of course, because we all sense it. That quiet voice in the background saying, there's more insight, more awareness, more light. But here's the twist. The 10% myth isn't about neurons, it's about consciousness. You're not using 10% of your brain, you're using 100%, but you're only aware of a sliver, the shadow city inside your head. Your brain is not a single entity, it's a civilization, billions of cells, trillions of connections, pulsing, flickering, reacting, learning, dreaming, but you don't see it, because it's in the shadows. Imagine standing in a great city, lights in every window, but your eyes are closed. You are in the city, but you're walking blindfolded. That's how most people live, not asleep, not broken, just disconnected from the miracle inside them. So the question isn't, how much of my brain do I use? The real question is, how deeply do I live inside it? Where did the 10% come from? The story begins in the early 1900s. Psychologist William James wrote, "We are making use of only a small part of our possible mental and physical resources." He didn't mean 10%, he meant untapped potential. But over the decades, the quote was warped, popularized, sold, simplified into something catchy, easy to sell, easy to swallow. You only use 10% of your brain. People believed it because it felt good, because it said, you could be more, if only you knew how. And that part was true. What the science says, here's the neuroscience. You use every part of your brain. Every region has a function. Some handle memory, some control movement, others regulate breathing, emotion, and attention. Even when you sleep, the brain is alive, dreaming, organizing, repairing. The myth is wrong in its wording, but the feeling behind it holds power, because what's really asleep is not the tissue, it's the attention. You aren't missing neurons, you're missing connection to them. You aren't half awake, you're awake in one room, while the rest of the mansion lies unexplored. The iceberg model, consciousness, and the depths below above the water, your conscious thoughts, below everything else, your subconscious, the part that remembers your childhood without trying, the part that stores your beliefs, your fears, your instincts, the part that digests your food while you daydream, the part that drives your car while your mind wanders. You are the tip of the iceberg, floating above a world you barely understand. So maybe the 10% myth isn't wrong, maybe it's just misunderstood. Maybe it's not about neurons at all. Maybe it's about how little of yourself you actually meet in your lifetime, the machinery you never touch. The truth is, you don't need a bigger brain, you need a clearer window into it. The brain is like a cathedral full of switches, and you, the visitor, flick one or two every day. The rest, you never touch. Creativity, dormant. Intuition, muted. Memory, cluttered. Focus, hijacked. Imagination, suffocated. All of it, waiting for you to notice, to remember that you are more than just thoughts and habits. Plasticity, the brain's secret superpower. Here's where it gets real. Your brain is plastic, not like a bottle, like a river. It changes, with every new skill, with every broken habit, with every intentional thought.
Neuroplasticity means your brain reshapes itself. It grows, it prunes, it reprograms. You are not static, you are liquid potential. So when they told you, you're only using a part of your brain, they weren't wrong. They were just thinking too small, because the unused part isn't just in your neurons, it's in your choices. Autopilot, the great thief of consciousness. Most people live in loops: wake, scroll, work, repeat, same thoughts, same inner voice, same reactions, day after day. But inside that repetition, a miracle is decaying. You were not born to repeat, you were born to awaken. Every moment of mindless behavior is a locked door you forgot to open, and every breath of awareness is a key. The brain doesn't need more capacity, it needs more presence. You're not here to become someone new, you're here to remember who you already are. The real secret: attention is power. Let me tell you something sacred. Your attention is not just a spotlight, it's a sculptor. Where you place it, you build. Where you withhold it, you allow decay. Every second you're distracted, a part of your potential fades quietly in the background. But when you bring awareness back to your thoughts, your body, your breath, the machine reawakens. Synapses fire, connections strengthen, and suddenly, you begin to remember the truth. You were never missing anything, you just weren't listening. So what does it mean to use more of your brain? It doesn't mean thinking harder, it means thinking deeper, feeling clearer, living slower, choosing presence over impulse. It means cultivating parts of your mind that school forgot to teach: silence, focus, visualization, reflection, imagination, intuition. These are not fantasy powers, they are ancient tools, buried under layers of noise. And tonight, you begin to dig the journey ahead. So now you know, you are not using 10% of your brain, you are using all of it. But only partially. You are conscious of a fragment, while the rest remains mysterious, misunderstood, and magnificent. But that changes. Now, this journey will take you through the full architecture of the mind, the layers of thought, the secret systems of emotion, memory, power, and creativity. You'll learn to activate what you were told was impossible. You'll feel the lights come on, one by one. You are about to enter the realm of deep mind. So breathe, let go, and listen, because what's coming next will change the way you think forever.
The hidden architecture of the mind. Close your eyes again, if they ever opened. Let the outside world dim and fade. You are about to walk deeper into yourself, into the hidden architecture of your mind. Not just neurons, not just biology, but the invisible design behind how you think, how you feel, how you perceive the world, and how the world perceives you. The brain is not the mind. Let's clear something up. The brain is the organ. The mind is the experience. Your brain is tissue, fat, water, electricity. But your mind, that's everything that flows through it. Thoughts, emotions, visions, dreams, fears, desires. Your brain is the temple. Your mind is the God that lives inside it. The two are not the same, but they dance together every moment of your life. 3 layers of mind, a map to navigate the hidden architecture of your mind. Imagine it in 3 layers: the conscious mind, the surface, the voice in your head, the narrator; the subconscious mind, the hidden control room, beliefs, habits, emotional memory; the unconscious mind, the deepest layer, instincts, ancestral programming, primal intelligence. Let's visit each, slowly. Layer 1: the conscious mind, the illusion of control. This is the voice you hear right now, the one asking questions, the one forming language. It's the you usually identify with. But here's the truth. Your conscious mind is a tiny flashlight in an enormous, dark cathedral. It can only hold 1 or 2 things at a time. That's why you forget names. That's why you miss details. That's why your thoughts loop. The conscious mind is brilliant, but limited. It's not the master. It's the interpreter. Most of what you do, you don't decide. You rationalize what's already been decided by the layers beneath. Layer 2: the subconscious, the silent engineer. Now we go lower. Here lies the subconscious, the hidden system that runs your life. It's where your habits live, your triggers, your self-image, your memories, your inner child. It is always listening, always recording, always shaping, and yet, you don't even know its name. This is where trauma hides, where shame settles, where confidence is built or broken. You speak to it not with words, but with repetition, with emotion, with what you focus on when no one's watching. Your subconscious is programmable, but it doesn't speak English. It speaks symbol, feeling, pattern. Layer 3, the unconscious, the primal core, and then, even deeper, the unconscious mind, the oldest part of you. This is where dreams come from, symbols, archetypes, the instincts you didn't choose, the fears you can't explain, the strange feelings you have in rooms with no reason. It is ancient, silent, raw. This is where your body and soul meet. The place Jung called the shadow. It holds everything you've repressed and everything you've inherited. When people talk about intuition, this is where it whispers from. These layers are not separate. They interact. These three minds are not stacked like bricks. They're woven like a braid. A conscious thought can sink into the subconscious through repetition. A subconscious fear can rise into awareness during a dream. An unconscious archetype can influence the decisions you think you made rationally. Your job isn't to control them, it's to harmonize them, to build a bridge between light and shadow, between thought and instinct, between your waking self and your sleeping intelligence. Neurofeedback loops, the architecture in motion. Let's go further. Inside your brain are feedback loops. Your thoughts influence your emotions. Your emotions shape your body. Your body sends signals back to your brain. This is not a one-way street, it's a living loop. Think of it like a spiral. You have a thought, it creates a feeling. That feeling creates a posture. That posture reinforces the thought, and so the loop continues. This is why it's hard to think your way out of anxiety, because your body is reinforcing the story, and the story is reinforcing your biology. To change your state, you have to change the whole loop, not just the top of it. The still mind. How silence rewrites code now. A secret. When you still the mind, when you sit in quiet, when you breathe, without chasing thought, something begins to happen. You break the loop, you pierce the veil. Suddenly, the subconscious opens, the old thoughts lose power, the body softens, the feedback dissolves. In that stillness, you begin to reprogram the hidden architecture. That's why ancient sages valued silence. That's why meditation works. That's why dreams come after sleep. Silence is not empty. It's a reset. Default mode network. Your brain's idle story. Modern neuroscience gives this stillness a name. The default mode network. DM. It activates when you're doing nothing, just sitting, wandering, daydreaming. But in that quiet, your brain is doing something sacred. It's building your sense of self. It's pulling memories. It's rehearsing identity. It's integrating your past. When the DMN is overactive, you get anxiety. When it's balanced, you get creativity, insight, healing. Stillness gives the architecture time to renovate itself. Your inner control panel. Now imagine this. You're standing in a great control room. Walls of dials, switches, and levers. Most of them are dusty, unused, forgotten. Each one controls a system of your mind. Focus, memory, sleep, creativity, energy, emotion. You've only ever touched a few, but the room is full. This is your inner architecture, and the switches are waiting for your hand. Your mind is not broken, it's unexplored. How belief becomes structure. Every belief you hold builds a wall or a door in the architecture of your brain. If you believe you're not creative, your brain reroutes energy away from that center. If you believe you can't change, your mind stops looking for alternatives. Beliefs aren't just thoughts, they are maps. They decide which pathways you travel and which you leave dark. And the wildest part, most of your core beliefs were installed before you were 10 years old, not by logic, by emotion. Awareness is the architect. So how do you change the mind? Not with force, not with willpower, with awareness. The more you become aware of what you believe, of what you feel, of how you respond, the more the architecture begins to shift. Awareness brings light. Light rewrites code, and code rewrites behavior. Not overnight, but deeply and forever.
You are the architect now. So here's the truth. You've walked through the myth. You've seen the layers. You've glimpsed the control room. Now the question is, what will you build? Because your brain is not a finished machine. It is a living system, and you are both its inhabitant and its engineer. With awareness, with intention, with practice, you can walk into those deeper rooms, dust off the forgotten switches, turn on the circuits, and remember, the rest of your mind has been waiting for you.
Activating dormant intelligence. You've walked the hidden corridors. You've seen the myth dissolve. You've traced the layers of your inner world. Now it's time to activate, to awaken what has slept, to bring online the dormant intelligence you've always carried. Your brain is not a container. It's a generator. Forget the idea that your brain stores things like a hard drive. It doesn't. It generates reality. Every moment, your brain is not replaying the world. It's predicting it. It takes fragments of data, then fills in the rest from your past, your beliefs, your focus. This is why 10 people can witness the same event and remember it differently. They aren't remembering reality. They're reconstructing it. And that means, the more you awaken your mind, the more vividly, creatively, and accurately you can rebuild the world around you. Neuroplasticity, your brain's superpower. You've been told you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but neuroscience says otherwise. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself, to grow, to change, to learn, even late in life. Every thought you repeat, every habit you perform, every emotion you feed, you are carving new pathways, forming new circuits, reinforcing new versions of who you are. This is not philosophy. This is biology. You are never stuck. You are only unaware of the patterns you've practiced. Awakening starts with attention. Your attention is like a spotlight. Where you shine it, neurons fire. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So what happens when you spend all day multitasking, scrolling endlessly, rushing from one thing to the next? You train your brain for distraction. You build a mind that skips instead of dives. But what if you slowed down? What if you focused deeply? You'd awaken attention, and attention awakens intelligence. The power of deep focus, mental muscle building. Let's call it deep focus. When you immerse yourself in a single thought, when you study something with full presence, when you enter flow, your brain builds density, new dendrites sprout, blood flow increases, the myelin sheath thickens, making your thoughts faster, sharper, smoother. Deep focus is not just productive, it is transformational. It reactivates parts of your brain that were dimmed by distraction. It rebuilds the neural highways of purpose. Meditation, the ancient switchboard. Now let's go inward. Meditation isn't about being calm. It's about becoming aware. And when you meditate consistently, something strange happens. The amygdala, your fear center, shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning, thickens. Connectivity between brain regions increases. In other words, you become more you, less reactive, more grounded, more conscious of what you allow in and what you let go. You're not escaping life. You're entering it fully. The remote control for the brain. What's the first thing you did when you were born? You breathed. Before you learned language. Before you understood time. Before you formed identity. There was breath. It is the bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, between the nervous system and the soul. Fast breathe in stress. Slow breathe in calm. Deep breathe in awakening. When you breathe intentionally, you tell your brain, I am safe. I am aware. I am here. It's the simplest tool you'll ever have, and the most powerful. Curiosity, the key to lifelong intelligence. Dormant intelligence doesn't wake up by accident. It awakens through curiosity. When you ask, what else is possible? Why do I believe this? What haven't I explored yet? You send a signal to your brain. We're expanding. Curiosity opens the doors your fear kept closed. It's the opposite of certainty. It's the foundation of growth. Every genius, every innovator, every awakened mind in history started with a question and the courage to sit in silence and wait for the answer. Challenge, the brain's catalyst. Your brain is not lazy, it's efficient. If you keep doing the same things, thinking the same way, solving the same problems, your brain coasts. But when you face challenge, especially the kind you choose, your brain upgrades itself. It releases dopamine. It fires dormant circuits. It forces creativity. This is called deliberate discomfort. It's how elite performers grow. It's how intelligence becomes resilience. Stress alone doesn't grow you. Conscious challenge does. Multisensory learning. Awaken all channels. Your brain doesn't learn best through words alone. It learns through experience. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, emotional. To activate more of your brain, draw your ideas. Speak them aloud. Move your body while you think. Attach emotion to every lesson. The more senses involved, the more neurons engaged. Learning becomes embodied. The dormant parts of the mind come online. You stop memorizing, and you start becoming the forgotten genius of the body. What if your body was not just the brain's vehicle, but a co-pilot? You have neurons in your gut, neurons in your heart. They process information, make decisions, hold memory. This is called the enteric nervous system, your second brain. So when you say, "I feel it in my gut," you're not being poetic, you're being accurate. When you connect to the body, through stillness, movement, breath, you awaken parts of your intelligence that language can't reach. Integration, turning knowledge into wisdom. All the insight in the world is meaningless without integration. Integration means you live what you learn. You embody the insight. You practice the truth. Dormant intelligence is not awakened in a flash. It's revealed in the echo of repeated conscious living. Every time you return to presence, choose your thoughts, breathe with intention, stretch into curiosity, sit with silence, you unlock another layer, not just of brain power, but of being. You're not becoming smarter, you're remembering. Here's a final truth. You are not learning something new. You are remembering something ancient. You are not unlocking your brain like a box. You are removing the noise that kept its music from being heard. This is your nature. This is your design, not a myth, not magic, not fantasy, but a reality so profound, it hid in plain sight. And now that it's awake, it's time to ask, what will you do with this awareness? What future will your awakened mind create? You don't have a mind, you are a mind, we say. I have a mind, but that's not quite true. You are the mind. It is not a tool you hold. It is the ocean you swim in. Every thought you think, every story you tell, is a mirror, reflecting who you believe yourself to be. The mind is not something you control from a distance. It is something you merge with, transform through, and awaken from within. When you understand this, you stop fighting your mind, you start listening to it. And when you listen long enough, you'll hear more than words. You'll hear memory, imagination, pain, potential, dreams you've buried, and gifts you forgot were yours. The brain's hidden language, patterns. Every brain speaks one native language. Patterns, patterns of thought, patterns of perception, patterns of behavior. And here's the secret. What you repeat becomes who you are, even unconsciously, especially unconsciously. Your beliefs are patterns. Your identity is a pattern. Your future, if left unexamined, is just a pattern extended forward in time. To educate in dormant intelligence is to interrupt the loop, to step outside the cycle, to become the observer of the pattern, instead of the prisoner of it. And in that moment, you are no longer programmed. You are programmer. Imagination, the mind's untapped power. We underestimate imagination. We relegate it to daydreams, fiction, play. But imagination is the blueprint of reality. Your brain doesn't distinguish well between what is real and what is vividly imagined. If you imagine vividly, you prime your body, emotions and nervous system to experience it now. Athletes use this. Artists live by this. Visionaries build the future with this. When you imagine, you are not escaping the world. You are practicing for it, preparing it, programming your subconscious.
to bring it into being. So ask yourself, what are you imagining, and is it worthy of who you are becoming? The subconscious, a chamber of power. Beneath your conscious mind lies something vast. The subconscious, it holds your memories, your habits, your traumas, your talents, but also your greatest power, automation. Your subconscious does what you've taught it to do. It drives your reactions, your instincts, your identity. But here's the twist. You don't need to control the subconscious. You need to speak its language. And its language is repetition, emotion, symbol, imagery, rhythm. The more you encode your life with those ingredients, the more your subconscious aligns with your conscious intent. And when those two minds walk in harmony, nothing within you will sabotage you again. Purgare subus, stillness, where intelligence emerges. What happens when the mind is silent, not empty, but still? In stillness, the noise fades, the surface chatter dissolves, and what remains is the voice behind the voice. This voice doesn't shout, it whispers. It speaks in feeling, in knowing, in sudden clarity. Stillness is not a luxury, it is medicine. Every great insight you've ever had was born in a quiet moment, not when you were trying harder,
But when you finally stopped trying and simply listened, you don't need more information. You need more inner space. You need more inner space. The rituals for awakening the mind. Here are simple, daily rituals, micro acts of power. To awaken dormant intelligence, sit in silence for 10 minutes every morning. Not to control thoughts, but to witness them. Visualize one clear goal for 90 seconds. Feel it, live it, practice becoming it. Breathe deeply for 2 minutes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Calm the nervous system. Read one idea that challenges your beliefs. Not to agree, but to expand. Write one truth you're afraid to speak. Let the unconscious surface. Move your body with intention. Walk, stretch, flow. You're not just a brain. You are a system. Disconnect from stimulation. Turn off the noise. Let your mind return to itself. Small practices, big rewiring. Twos. That's how intelligence becomes activated. The brain is portal, not prison. Most people think the brain is a box, but it's not a prison. It's a portal. To what? To intuition, to creativity, to transcendence. Think of the brain not as an end, but as a bridge. Across that bridge flows a deeper awareness, a consciousness that is not bound by biology. And every time you deepen focus, feel presence, surrender to the now, you don't just wake up more brain power, you wake up more being. And perhaps that's the greatest myth of all, that this is about using more of your brain. No, Two's about using more of yourself. Voiceover softens. You're not here to become a machine. You're here to become more human, more aware, more alive. And now that you've stepped across the threshold, you don't need permission. You only need presence. Welcome to the rest of your mind. Our brain is ancient technology. There is no computer on Earth more advanced than the one between your ears. It runs on electricity. It wires itself through emotion. It reshapes itself with thought alone. It generates dreams. It folds time, simulates futures, resurrects the past, and imagines the impossible. But unlike artificial intelligence, this is living intelligence. It grows. It aches. It feels. It remembers. It doesn't need to be installed. It needs to be remembered. The dream layer, where consciousness expands when you fall asleep. Your conscious mind lets go, but something else awakens. Your dreams aren't random. They are rehearsals. They are metaphor. Twos. They are language, encrypted and emotional, from your subconscious to your conscious self. To awaken more of your brain, pay attention to your dreams. They are blueprints from your deeper intelligence. Twos. They show you what you are afraid to face, what you long to become, what is waiting to be felt, known, integrated. Start asking yourself, what is my mind telling me in symbols? What lesson is hiding behind the strange? What truth is too loud to speak in waking life?
Your dreams are not separate from intelligence. They are the mind speaking in myth. Neural alchemy, turning thought into transformation. Every thought is an energy signal, and every time you think with intention, you create. This is not just mindset, it's neural alchemy, turning energy into biology. Imagine, you think a fearful thought, and stress hormones flood your bloodstream. You think a loving thought, and oxytocin flows. You believe something long enough, and your nervous system reshapes itself around that belief. Your brain is not asking what is true, it's asking what do you keep telling me is true. To change your life, change your thinking. To change your thinking, change your focus. To change your focus, change your attention. The third mind, the silent intelligence. There is a layer of awareness beneath thinking, beneath logic, beneath even emotion. It doesn't speak in words, it doesn't argue or explain. But it knows. What knows. This is what mystics called the third mind, not left brain, not right brain, but presence itself. You observe the field of awareness, within which all thoughts arise. When you become still, you touch it, and from there, you no longer try to awaken your brain, you simply allow it. Like the sun rising behind clouds, your light is not something you create, it's something you uncover, the masks of the mind, and letting them fall.
We all wear masks, the identity we show the world, the roles we play, the thoughts we perform to be accepted.
But these masks are heavy, and behind them, your deeper intelligence suffocates. When you let go of pretending, you don't become less, you become clearer. You make space for insight. You allow truth. You remember yourself. Awakening the mind isn't about becoming more. It's about peeling away the noise and finding the vast radiant silence underneath. The sacred question, who is thinking this thought? Stop for a moment. You breathe. Notice the next thought that comes. And now ask yourself, who noticed it? There is a thinker, and there is the witness of the thinker. Most people never meet the witness. They are lost in thought, but believing every word. You can step outside the storm. You can return to the source of the storm and find peace. This question, who is thinking this thought, is a key that opens the door to dormant awareness. Behind that door is the true intelligence, silent, vast as the night sky. The limit is not the brain, it's our imagination of the brain. You were never only using 10% of your brain. That was a myth. But here's the truth, you've been using 100% of your brain's capacity to maintain the life you currently live, not 100% of its potential. Your mind has rooms you've never entered, a density you've never tested, depths you've never dared to swim into. The limit is not neurological. The limit is conceptual. It's what you believe is possible, what you were taught is realistic, what you assumed intelligence meant. But there is so much more. And the moment you believe there is more, you give your brain permission to find it. Intelligence beyond thought. Your deepest intelligence isn't verbal. It's not something you figure out. It's something you fall into. It's the clarity you feel when words end. The instinct that pulls you before you understand why. The presence that makes sense of everything, without needing to explain anything. And it was never gone, only quiet. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your full being. You will hear it. The intelligence beneath all intelligence. The mind behind the mind. And once you awake, there is no going back. Salon voice fades into ambient calm. The heart is listening. The witness is here. Now, let silence continue let awareness rise. And in the stillness, you will discover, you will never sleep, only dreaming.
Returning to the infinite within beyond intelligence, into presence, there is a threshold, beyond the edge of thought, beyond even imagination. Here, the mind begins to dissolve, not into nothingness, but into everythingness. This is not mental activity, it is mental awareness. Not what you think, but that you are thinking. And when you reach this place, intelligence becomes something more than cleverness, logic, or memory. It becomes a presence, a sacred stillness, a depth that sees without needing to name. The nervous system as a temple. We forget your mind does not end at your skull. Every nerve, every cell, every breath is an extension of awareness. Your body is the subconscious made visible. Tension is thought, stillness is clarity, pain is instruction. When you awaken more of your brain, you are not just becoming mentally sharp, you are becoming more sentient, more able to feel, to sense, to connect. So listen to your body, like a sacred text. It is not an obstacle to your awakening. It is the gateway, sacred ignorance. The mind learns best in humility. The wisest minds are not the loudest, not the most certain, not the most fact-filled. The wisest minds are those who know how little they know, because real intelligence begins in wonder, in mystery, in silence. When you approach your brain with reverence, not conquest, it opens in ways science still cannot explain. Some questions aren't meant to be answered. They are meant to open you. Who am I when I stop pretending? What is awareness made of? Can I observe my mind without identifying with it? You don't need to solve these. You need to sit with them. Let them stretch the walls of your understanding until a new kind of space appears inside you. Fractal thought, intelligence that sees patterns within patterns. There are patterns, inside patterns, inside patterns. Your mind is a fractal. It spirals inward. It mirrors the cosmos. It builds complexity from simplicity. The more you awaken, the more you see. Everything is connected. The way you think is linked to how you breathe. Your memories echo in your posture. Your beliefs sculpt your attention. Your focus rewires your future. When you become aware of the patterns, you can begin to choose them. This is freedom, not the absence of limits, but the power to redefine them. Metacognition, the superpower, hiding in plain sight, the real secret. It's not just thinking, it's thinking about thinking. This is metacognition, the power to observe the observer, to step out of the current and watch the river of thought flow by. When you practice metacognition, you stop being trapped in thought. You become the space around the thought. You learn to respond, not react. You become your own guide. This is not an advanced trick. This is your birthright. Every child is born with awareness. We just forget. But you're remembering, unlocking through stillness, not struggle. You cannot force the mind open. You can only relax into its vastness. Struggle creates noise. Stillness reveals truth. So let this moment be enough. No need to chase more thoughts. No need to master the mind. Instead, let your awareness rest gently on itself. No goal, no fixing, no escaping, just being. This is the final door, and it does not swing open through effort. It opens through surrender. Full circle intelligence. Return to simplicity. We began this journey, searching for something more. More brain, more power, more potential. But now, on the far shore of thought, we see the paradox. To access more, you must need less. To wake up, you must fall inward. To become intelligent, you must become quiet. This is the sacred loop, the great spiral, the return to the center. And what was at the center all along? Awareness, timeless, spacious, already whole. Salon voice lowers into whisper. You have reached the core, not of the brain, but of being. You are not just awakening the mind, you are awakening the one who watches the mind. And in that sacred space, there are no limits. There is only light. The door was never locked. You were told awakening is a destination, that higher intelligence is far, far away, that something outside you holds the key. But now, you see, the door was never locked. In fact, there was no door, only a veil, made of noise. And now, you have learned how to part the veil, not by force, but by stillness, not by more thinking, but by deeper listening. You are no longer trying to activate your brain. You are realizing it was always awake. Unity intelligence, the mind that feels everything. There is an intelligence beyond intellect, beyond logic, emotion, or analysis. It is the mind that feels everything. The ache of a tree when it's cut, the sorrow in another's silence, the ancient longing inside a child's eyes,
This is unity intelligence, the awareness that says there is no separation. I am what I see. As you awaken more of your inner self, you don't become smarter, you become more whole, and wholeness sees beauty in everything, even the broken, especially the broken, the silence that thinks for you. When you let go of chasing answers, a strange peace arises. It is not emptiness, it is silent fullness, a space where thoughts dissolve, and truth appears unannounced. This is the mind before language, the place where intuition lives, where you know something, without knowing why. Here, decisions make themselves, insights arrive like gentle lightning, clarity lands in your chest, not your head, and all you did was become still enough to receive it. Neuroplasticity as a spiritual path. We often talk about brain plasticity like a science fact, but it's something more sacred than we realize. Every moment of presence rewires you. Every breath of awareness reconfigures your entire being. When you choose peace instead of panic, patience instead of impulse, stillness instead of reaction, you are not just calming your nervous system, you are reshaping your future. You are becoming a new human. You are building a brain that can host light. Plasticity isn't just mental flexibility, it's spiritual evolution in real time, the birth of a new kind of intelligence. This isn't about IQ, or memory, or multitasking. This is about something more ancient and more futuristic than we can define, an intelligence that feels everything, observes without judgment, knows without effort, and acts without violence. We are birthing this now, not just in individuals, but as a species. You are a part of this shift. And every time you choose to wake up, to observe, to feel, to wonder, you are accelerating the evolution of humanity itself. Seeing from the still point, the more you awaken, the less you rush. You no longer react from panic. You move from the still point, from the place inside you that is never threatened, never confused, never disturbed. This center is not a theory, it is your original self, not who you became to survive, not who you pretended to be, but who you are. When everything else falls away, this stillness is not a break from life, it is the source of life, the place where intelligence flows effortlessly, the last illusion that you are not enough. This is the final shadow, the deepest trap, that you are missing something, that you are not yet there, that you must become more, do more, know more, to be worthy. But listen closely, you are not missing anything, you are not late, you are not broken, you are awakening. Exactly as you were meant to, at the precise pace your soul can hold. The mind wants control, but awareness knows the path. So breathe, let yourself be guided, not by thoughts, but by trust. The final key, let go of becoming. The moment you stop trying to become, you remember who you already are. Not a fragment, not a function, not a name, but a field of intelligence, a stillness behind the noise, a consciousness older than time. There is nothing to unlock, nothing to improve, nothing to perfect, just this awareness, present, alive. You were never trying to unlock 90% of your brain, you were learning to remember the 100% of you that was never lost. Closing whisper, the myth fades, the truth remains. You are vast, you are luminous. You are ready, now rest, let this silence do its final work. No more becoming, just being.
The shadow of intelligence. The fear of seeing clearly the light that burns. Most people say they want to awaken, they want clarity, they want truth, they want to use more of their mind. But there's something no one tells you. Clarity is not always comfortable. Awakening is not always gentle. Because when the light comes on, you don't just see beauty, you see the dust, the cracks, the ghosts. When intelligence truly activates, you begin to see what you've avoided for years, decades, maybe lifetimes. And that's why many stop here. Not because they can't go further, but because they don't want to look. The mirror has no mercy. Real intelligence is like a mirror that doesn't blink. It shows you the contradictions in your beliefs, the moments you betrayed yourself, the tiny lies you told to stay safe, the habits that once protected you, but now keep you small. And this mirror has no agenda. It simply reflects, no praise, no shame, just truth. And when you look into that mirror long enough, you don't just see your personality, you see your patterns. And then, you see who you were before the patterns ever began. The abyss of knowing too much. There's a moment in awakening that feels like falling. You realize you can never return to sleep. You can't pretend anymore. You can't unsee what you've seen. Some call this the dark night. Some call it ego death. But whatever the name, it feels like this. Everything you thought was you starts to dissolve, not out of cruelty, but because something deeper is emerging. A mind that's not built on control, but on surrender. A mind that doesn't need to be right, just honest. This is the shadow of intelligence. The fear that if you awaken fully, you might lose everything you used to be. And that fear is not wrong, because in many ways you will. Losing the identity that kept you safe. So much of your intelligence has been asleep, not because you lacked the capacity, but because your identity was protecting you. Your role, your mask, your familiar wounds, they gave you structure. They helped you survive. They made the world make sense. But to awaken the full mind, you must walk beyond them. You must be willing to not know who you are, to not rush back to a definition, to let the self you've built slowly dissolve into the mystery that built you. And that's terrifying, but also freeing, because what returns is not a smaller version of you. It's the original, the real, the vast, the unafraid. Your shadow is not the enemy. Let's say this clearly. Your shadow, the part of you you hide, is not your enemy. It is your lost intelligence, your suppressed genius, your misunderstood power. It speaks in the voice of fear, because it has been ignored. But beneath that fear is a gift, a form of awareness you had to exile, just to fit in, just to be good, just to survive your childhood, or your past relationships, or your culture. Now, it wants to come home, not to destroy you, but to complete you. Closing whisper of Section 4 Vertical Bar, Part 1. This is the price of full awakening, to walk through the cave of your own fear. But in that darkness, there is gold, there is vision, there is intelligence untouched by time. If you can sit with the shadow, it becomes your greatest teacher. And you become whole. Emotional and ancestral shadows. You didn't build the walls alone. You wonder why some parts of your mind feel locked away, why you flinch from certain memories, why your body tenses before your thoughts catch up. It's not always because of something you did. It's because something in you was trained. Before you had language, before you had choice, you were shaped by more than your own experiences. You were sculpted by the fears of those who came before you. The body you live in carries more than your story. It carries history. It carries inheritance. It carries pain that didn't begin with you, but that lives inside you. And waking up your full mind means listening to the whole song, even the verses that weren't written in your voice. The mind remembers what you forget. There are things your conscious mind has forgotten, but your nervous system remembers them all. The time you had to be silent to stay safe. The moment your joy was punished. The day you learned that love had conditions. These memories don't just vanish. They fold themselves into your reflexes. They become the shape of your reactions. They turn into beliefs so deep, you don't even know they're beliefs. They become, I'm not safe. I shouldn't speak up. If I fail, I'll be abandoned. And without realizing it, you live inside a script you didn't write. But here's the miracle. Once seen, these old codes can be rewritten. Your parents' fears were lessons in disguise. You didn't just inherit your parents' eye color. You inherited their unspoken fears, their survival instincts, their mental boundaries. Sometimes what they called realism was just fear passed down in polite words. Don't get your hopes up. Be careful who you trust. Play it safe. And yet, even in their caution, there was a hidden love, an instinct to protect you from the pain they couldn't escape. They were doing the best they could. But now it's your turn to break the spell, to feel what they couldn't, to awaken what they had to shut down. You are the pivot. You are the evolution. You are the one who sees the cycle and chooses a new path. Facing the emotional fog, not all barriers come as fear. Some come as numbness. That dull ache of disconnection, the fog that clouds your clarity, the voice that says, I don't know what I feel. I don't know what I want. This is not a flaw in you. It is the result of years spent suppressing truth to keep peace. Years spent being what others needed, instead of who you truly are. And here is where dormant intelligence hides. In the unspoken, in the tears not cried, in the truths you swallowed. To awaken, you don't need to force the doors open. You only need to sit in the silence long enough for them to unlock on their own. Your body is a portal to the past. Every tension in your shoulders, every knot in your stomach, every pattern of breath or stillness is a message, not just from the mind, but from the living archive of your body. Trauma doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers or hides in habit. That's why full awakening is not just mental, it's somatic, it's emotional, it's cellular. You must not just think your way out of the prison, you must feel your way through it. The body holds what the mind has tried to forget, and when the body is finally allowed to speak, intelligence flows like water breaking through a dam. Transformation is not an escape, it's a return. You are not becoming someone new, you are returning to who you were before the fear, before the world said this part of you is too much. That dream is unrealistic, that truth is inconvenient. The full mind is not an achievement, it is a remembering of your curiosity, of your intuition, of your unfiltered, unbroken light. The mind you seek isn't locked behind some final key, it's waiting just behind the veil of what you haven't dared to feel. And once you feel it, not as a concept but as a lived truth, you realize the intelligence was never lost. It was just waiting for permission to return. Closing whisper of Section 4 Vertical Bar Part 2. You don't unlock your full brain by learning more. You do it by feeling more, by listening, by honoring the emotional scars you were taught to ignore. Because beneath them is clarity, is wisdom, is freedom. You are not broken. You are full of voices that never got to sing. Now, listen closely. They're starting to hum again. The fear of power, and becoming the secret resistance to greatness. There is a resistance inside you, not just to pain, but to power, not just to failure, but to the fire of full activation. You say you want clarity, you say you want to awaken your whole mind, to rise, to create, to fully become, and yet, something in you pulls back, at the last moment, quietly, secretly. Why? Because deep down you know this truth. Real power burns away who you used to be, and the old self doesn't want to die. Power demands responsibility. True intelligence comes at a cost. When you start seeing clearly, you can no longer pretend you don't. You see the games people play. You see the patterns behind behavior. You see the quiet manipulations. You see your own excuses. You become awake in a world that often prefers to stay asleep, and that you can't blame others anymore. You can't outsource your choices. You can't live half-heartedly. This is what scares people most about unlocking their mind. The moment you become powerful, you become responsible for your attention, for your energy, for the shape of your life. And that weight, it's heavy, but holy. You fear the you that you could be. Imagine, just for a second, if every mental wall dropped, if every limiting belief dissolved, if every gift inside you was activated. Who would you be? How brightly would you burn? How many lives would you change? How clearly would you speak? How honest would you live? Now ask yourself, why does that vision scare you? What part of you doesn't want to stand that tall? Is it the fear of judgment, of being seen, of being too much? Is it the fear that you'll rise, only to fall, that you'll step into greatness, and lose the love of those who need you small? These are not surface-level doubts. They are ancient. They are the ghosts that guard the gates of genius. Power collapses the false self. There is a self inside you that was built to survive, to avoid conflict, to please, to stay hidden. This self learned how to dim, how to shrink, how to perform safety. But when your intelligence begins to awaken fully, this self starts to crack. And here's the paradox. It feels like destruction, but it's actually liberation. The false self must collapse for the full self to emerge. And that collapse feels like dying, because something is dying. The version of you that was never fully alive to begin with. The lion you locked in the cage. Within the lion you locked in the cage. Within you is not just a spark of brilliance. There is a lion, a force, a knowing, a presence so alive, it would terrify the version of you that clings to comfort. You have felt it in glimpses. When you spoke truth without fear, when you moved with clarity, without needing permission, when you said yes to your vision,
even when the world didn't understand. But most of the time, that lion stays caged. Why? Because it threatens the order, the expectations, the neat tame life you were told to accept. But what if the cage isn't locked? What if the lion is simply waiting for your permission? The pain of staying small, the longer you hold your power back, the more it aches. Not just emotionally, but energetically. You begin to feel tired, anxious, restless, heavy, because your inner fire was not meant to be buried. It was meant to move, to build, to lead, to illuminate. And when you suppress that intelligence, it doesn't disappear, it turns inward. It becomes anxiety, self-doubt, depression. This is not weakness, it's the pain of unlived power. And the moment you feel that pain honestly, you begin to heal. You are the threshold right now. You are standing on the edge of who you were and who you could be. You don't need to leap in one giant act of bravery. You only need to take the first honest step, to speak one truth you've been avoiding, to reclaim one piece of power you gave away, to embody just one moment of your full mind. And in that step, a door opens, and you realize the fire you feared was your own light, calling you home. Closing whisper of Section 4 Vertical Bar. Part 3. It's not your flaws that scare you the most. It's your potential, your capacity, your brilliance. But now, that brilliance is stirring, the walls are thinning, the lion is waking, and your true mind is ready to lead. All you have to do is stop hiding from your own light. It was never too much. It was always you.
Fear of the unknown mind, the horizon beyond thought. There is a horizon in your mind you've never crossed. You've felt it in silence. You've touched it in deep meditation. You've dreamed of it in flashes of inspiration. It is the place beyond knowing, beyond memory, beyond the chatter of thought. It is not chaos. It is not confusion. It is clarity so deep, it cannot be described. It is intelligence without content, awareness without form, and it's terrifying. Because in this place, there are no handholds, no roles to play, no beliefs to defend, no names to wear, just you, as presence itself. Foralun. The mind tries to fill the silence. The moment you approach this void, the mind panics. It starts talking, grabbing, thinking, analyzing, because the conditioned mind does not know how to exist without boundaries. What if I lose myself? What if I go too far? What if I vanish into nothing? These aren't just thoughts, they're survival instincts, because the ego, the mask of thought, was never designed to enter the infinite. Only awareness can go there. Only the part of you that is already vast, already eternal. And so, the final veil is not guarded by monsters, it's guarded by silence, by stillness, by the unbearable presence of what you truly are. The abyss is not empty. You have been taught that the unknown is a threat, that if you can't define it, predict it, label it, you should fear it. But what if the unknown isn't empty? What if it's where all intelligence comes from? What if this void is actually the womb of thought, the birthplace of insight, the source code of reality? The great mystics, the great scientists, the great artists, they all touch this space. They don't control it, they enter it. And listen, this is where the awakened mind lives, not clinging to what it knows, but breathing into what it doesn't, dissolving into awareness. There is no technique for this part, no mantra, no checklist, just this. Can you sit, without doing, without naming, without needing to be anyone? Can you feel your mind begin to quiet, not forced, just dissolving, like mist, like a tide going out, like a self remembering it was never separate? This is not using more of your brain, this is going beyond the brain, into the field of intelligence that was always here, before language, before time, before you knew who you were supposed to be. The brain's secret function. You thought the brain's highest function was problem solving, or memory, or analysis. But what if that's just the surface? What if the brain is actually a receiver, a tuning instrument for something far vaster, something that doesn't live in the skull, but in consciousness itself? When the noise quiets, you begin to hear that deeper music, the intuition that doesn't explain itself, the knowing that doesn't come from thought, the clarity that feels like still water. This is not imagination, it is the mind, at peace with the mystery, and from that peace, new worlds are born. You were never just a mind. Here is the final revelation. You are not the thinker. You are not even the mind. You are the awareness. The mind moves through. You are the sky, not the clouds, the space, not the structure. When this is felt, not just known intellectually, but felt, fear begins to dissolve, because there is nothing left to lose. You are already whole, already vast, already free. You were never the part of the brain you used. You were always the infinite it was trying to touch. The solemn Flavian whisper of Section 4 vertical bar. Part 4. Breathe now. Let go of the search. Let go of the questions. Let go of the mind trying to find the mind. Just rest in the silence beneath it all. This is the place. This is the source. The shadow is gone now. The veil has lifted, and what's left is light. Not dramatic, not loud, just still, just true. And finally, completely awake, reclaiming the real you integration, bringing the deep mind into daily life. The truth about intelligence, it's not what you think. Real intelligence is not the ability to memorize facts. It's not your GPA. It's not your resume. Real intelligence is your capacity to stay awake in a world that wants you asleep. It is your ability to perceive clearly, to respond consciously, to move without noise. This is not about being a genius. It's about being fully present. And from presence, everything becomes sharper. Your words, your decisions, your emotions, your energy, the soul and flow of tools for living with a deep mind. Now that you've awakened this deeper part of your intelligence, you must learn to work with it. Here are the tools. Simple, quiet, powerful. 1. Stillness. As practice, give yourself 5-10 minutes a day of silence. No input, no scrolling, no stimulation, just presence. This is not wasted time. This is recalibration. It's how the deeper mind breathes. 2. Truth. As compass. Your clarity sharpens every time you speak truth. Not brutal honesty, not egoic confrontation, just realness. The awakened mind cannot tolerate lies, especially the ones we tell ourselves. Start noticing. When am I shrinking? When am I performing? When am I avoiding truth? Awareness is the beginning of liberation. 3. Attention is energy. What you focus on grows. Your attention is a currency. Spend it with wisdom. Is this thought worth my energy? Is this person nourishing or draining? Is this environment helping me stay awake? Protect your mind. It's sacred. Redefining success with a calm mind. Now that you know how to access deeper intelligence, you'll start to notice something strange. The old definitions of success feel hollow, not because they're bad, but because they're incomplete. You were taught to chase titles, applause, power, productivity, but now you crave something quieter. Peace, clarity, alignment, freedom from internal noise. This is not laziness, it's evolution. And it's what happens when the mind no longer runs on fear. You begin to move from essence, not ego, making space for the new self. As your mind awakens, you may start to feel different. You're less reactive, more reflective, more grounded. And some people may not understand that. They may try to pull you back into the old frequency. But listen, you don't owe anyone the smaller version of you. You're not abandoning them. You're honoring you. Let the old roles dissolve. Let the unnecessary noise fall away. You don't have to explain your piece. You just have to live it. Closing whisper of Section V. Vertical bar Part 1. You are not here to transcend life. You are here to embody it, fully, wisely, deeply. And now, with this mind open, you can begin to live from the truth beneath the surface. No more noise. No more pretending. No more shrinking. This is your real mind, and it's time to return to the world, not as someone seeking power, but as someone who is power, quiet, calm, clear. And finally, you touch the vast stillness of your mind. Now, let's bring it down into your heart, because intelligence, on its own, is not enough. It must be fused with something deeper, something warmer, something human. This is emotional intelligence, not just understanding your thoughts, but understanding your inner weather, your reactions, your wounds, your love, your truth. This is the alchemy of a fully awakened self, where logic meets feeling, and clarity meets compassion. Emotion is not the enemy. You may have been taught to fear emotion, to suppress it, to stay logical, to be in control, but emotional intelligence isn't about control. It's about presence. It's about feeling fully, without being consumed. Because when your emotions are not faced, they don't disappear. They go underground. They turn into self-sabotage.
They distort your decisions. They whisper lies in the background of your thoughts. But when they are welcomed, everything shifts. The 3 layers of emotion. Think of your emotional self like an ocean. 1. The surface layer. Reaction. This is where most people live. Something happens, and the reaction is immediate. Anger, anxiety, defensiveness, sadness. This is the crash, the splash, the turbulence. But it's not the truth. It's only the trigger. To reach emotional intelligence, we must dive deep. 2. The middle layer. Meaning here lies the story, the why beneath the wave. Why did that comment hurt? Why did that rejection sting so deeply? Why does this pattern keep repeating? This layer contains your beliefs, your conditioning, your trauma. It is where you start to decode yourself. It's where you see, I'm not just angry, I feel unseen. I'm not just jealous, I feel unworthy. I'm not just anxious, I'm trying to be perfect. This is where healing begins. 3. The deep layer, core emotion. At the deepest layer lies the pure emotion, not as drama, not as chaos, but as energy, grit, love, fear, joy, longing. Here, you stop analyzing, you stop fixing, you feel, and the moment you allow it, completely, it begins to transform. Emotion, when fully welcomed, becomes clarity. Emotional alchemy. In daily life, here's what it looks like to live with emotional intelligence. You don't suppress emotions, you observe them. You don't judge your triggers, you learn from them. You don't perform, you show up, honestly. And this changes everything. Conversations become cleaner, boundaries become easier, relationships become real. You're no longer trapped in your inner weather, you become the sky that holds it all. Practical practices to awaken emotional intelligence. Here are tools you can begin using today. Name it, then feel it. When emotion rises, pause. I'm feeling anger, frustration, shame. Name it gently, then feel it. Without story, let it move through your body. It will pass. Emotion is a wave, not an identity. 2. Write. Before you react. When overwhelmed, write it down. Let the mind empty into the page. No censorship, no edits. This helps you witness the emotion, rather than becoming it. 3. Breathe. Into the center. Find where the emotion lives in your body. Place your hand there. Breathe into it slowly. This brings awareness to the felt sense, and brings your system back to presence. From intelligence to wisdom. There's a reason this section matters so deeply, because your inner awakening means nothing if it cannot touch your relationships, if it doesn't soften your voice, open your heart, make you more human, not less. This is what wisdom truly is. Not cold, not distant, not above others, but rooted, real, relational. You are not here to transcend emotion. You are here to listen to it. Let it teach you. Let it open you. Let it make your intelligence kind. 2. Long love. Closing whisper of Section V vertical bar. Part 2. Now, breathe.
Feel your chest, your heart, the rhythm beneath your thinking. Feel the pulse of emotion, not as weakness, but as truth. This is what it means to be fully alive, to walk through the world, not just with an awakened brain, but with an awakened soul. This is who you really are.